StrayAllDay.com.
You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is why I am here. What exactly is what's my reason for existing in the marketplace here? Before we get into that though, let me remind everybody that I send out a text message every morning, free of charge, to everybody in my text community. So if you didn't know, and you didn't know that I had a text community and you want to be in it, let me tell you what you got to do to get it. All you got to do is text me right now at my number, which is 305-384-6894. And every day when I send out this message, which I call the daily motivation, you're going to receive a message that is guaranteed to have you, number one, be focused, number two, be sharp, and number three, be on point to start your day. So all you got to do is text me at my number. Again, it's 305-384-6894. And every day when that daily motivation text goes out, you shall receive a message that will have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day. And again, that's free of charge. Numbers down below in the description. While you're down there in the description, there's another link that I want to point your attention to. That is to my university, Work on Your Game University. That is the place where I do all of my coaching. That's where I have all of my courses. That's where I do all of my training. So any of you who would like to work with me directly, or you want to get direct help from me in any way, shape, or form outside of listening to this show, the best way to get it is to be a member of Work on Your Game University. And how do you become a member of Work on Your Game University? Let me tell you, make that simple as well. All you got to do is go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Yes, workonyourgameuniversity.com. You become a member of the university and you can get directly coached by me. You get access to all of my courses. We have 40 plus courses in there, 50 plus trainings that are on specific topics. So any topic that you ever heard me talk about here on this show, and you would love to hear me go more in depth on it, things like the value adder, things like how to sell yourself, things like how to land media appearances, how to market and promote and sell your stuff, whether you're doing it online or offline. I have specific trainings on all of those things in Work on Your Game University. The way to get access to that stuff is to be a member of Work on Your Game University, which you do by simply going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Again, workonyourgameuniversity.com. As a member of the university, you'll have direct access to all of my best trainings, all of my courses, and every single month when I send out 2 physical mailings, one of them called the Bulletproof Bulletin, the other called the Black Book. Every month when I send those 2 out, you'll be receiving them. If you're watching this on video, you can see the Black Book right here on my left side. There's the April and the May versions you can see right there on display, amongst other books. Those you get sent to your physical mailbox. Yes, physical mailbox. You actually get mail from me, not email, not a link, not a text message. Physical mail to your mailbox every month if you're a member of the university by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get into the topic here today, why I am here. Now, this is something that I every now and then I revisit this topic and talk about it, and I'm creating this episode here today to establish why Work on Your Game exists. What my reason, Dre Baldwin, what my reason is for being in the marketplace, and what I'm bringing to the table every time you see a new message from me or hear a new episode or see a new video coming from me. This is the essence. This episode here, I'm going to explain the essence of what Work on Your Game is about, so that even after I'm gone, these principles will live on with what has been created here at Work on Your Game, because Work on Your Game is bigger than just Dre Baldwin. Work on Your Game is anyone who is involved in Work on Your Game, anybody who is applying the Work on Your Game message, anybody who's applying the principles of what Work on Your Game is about. So this is all of you as well. If you're applying this stuff, you're not just listening to it, but you're actually taking it and doing something with it. And however Work on Your Game exists and where it goes from here, even when I'm no longer the point person doing everything here at Work on Your Game. But for now, for the foreseeable future, I will be here doing things that Work on Your Game. I just want to make sure that this is established so that, who knows, 20, 30, 50 years from now, if I pass Work on Your Game on to my heirs or whoever is running Work on Your Game after me, they know what Work on Your Game is about and where it came from, why it started. So this episode is basically me going on the record, making sure everyone understands here is why this exists. All right, that's why I'm doing this episode. And uh, all of you who are creators, all of you who are building brands and or building businesses, you should read in between the lines here, which I'm going to do for you right here, and understand that you need to make sure you make this clear about whatever business or entity you run or what you create. And it needs to be about your business or entity, not just you personally, because you personally may not be around as long as your company is around. Your company may be around long after you're around. So you want to make sure it's clear what your company is about, so everyone who comes along in the future knows that. Let's get into it. Point number one. Topic once again today is why I am here. Why Work on Your Game is here is probably what I'll title this. Number one is the game. All right. When we say work on your game, what does that mean? Well, the great thing about this phrase, work on your game, is that people can see it and they can hear it and they automatically get it. You don't have to explain it. They get it. But I'm going to explain it here today. But when I walk around it, now these days I'm usually in a business suit, but when I wear a Work on Your Game hat or Work on Your Game t-shirt, or people see the Work on Your Game tattoo on my arm, which you can't see when I'm in this suit, but when people can see it, people see it and they say, oh, I like that. Work on your game. Like, they like it. They don't know who I am, what I do, where I'm from, anything, because the phrase alone gets the point across. But let me explain it. When I say the game, what that means is life. And every aspect of life is a game. It's a one long, big game that we're all playing. And every game, any of you who's ever played a game before, I don't care if we're talking Monopoly, we're talking playing poker at the casino, or we're talking playing a sport. Any game that you play, there are winners and there are losers. This is just the fact of the matter. All right, this is a finite game. And there's a book out there by Simon Sinek. He calls it The Infinite Game, where he's talking about how, basically, let me not say basically, because I didn't read the book yet, but I remember I told this story maybe 6 to 12 months ago. I was doing some business with those people over there at his company, and one of his lieutenants was trying to tell me, well, hey, Simon has this book called The Infinite Game, and the way you're talking about the game, Dre, is you're talking about people winning and losing. Well, that's a finite game, so you should change it to talking about how games are infinite. And I said, I ain't changing shit, because Work on Your Game ain't about the infinite game. Work on Your Game is about the finite game of winners and losers. And they very well understood my point. And I'll tell that story again, maybe at a different date. The whole point is there are winners and losers in this game, the game that I'm talking about. And just because you won yesterday does not mean you will win today. Just because you lost yesterday does not mean you're going to lose today. But you could lose twice in a row, and you could win twice in a row. But yesterday's outcome has nothing to do with today's outcome. The game continues with or without you. The only thing that changes are the players. The game changes, and you may get in different games. So I was in the basketball game when I first came out on the internet. Some of you know me from back then. Those of you who've been around for a long time, shout out to those people. Some of you know me when I was really focused mainly on the mindset piece, which was kind of like it overlapped between the sports world and the business world, which is what I talk about now. That was kind of the bridge between me talking to athletes and me talking to entrepreneurs, was the mindset piece, because they both need it. And now some of you have come across me, let's just say in the last 5 years or less, when my focus has really been on entrepreneurship and business, and the business professional out there, even though athletes can be professional as well. The whole point is all of those are games. There's a mindset game. There's a mental game, which you probably heard me talk about. Business is a game. Those of you who are in business, it's a game. All right. It's kind of like playing a sport. It's just a different type of sport. And sports itself, we all know that sports are literally a game. The only thing that changes are the players, and maybe each player, you play in different games at different points in your life. So this winning and losing thing does not necessarily mean, just to be clear, doesn't necessarily mean you against other people. It can mean that, but it doesn't always mean that. Sometimes the game that you're in is about you relative to the idealized version of you. And we call that personal development. Professional development is you looking at yourself in the mirror, literally or metaphorically, and saying, all right, how good could I be? Where could I be? What type of person could I be relative to the person that I am right now? Could I improve? Could I get better? Could I step my performance up? Could I work on my game in any way to improve? And usually If you're listening to this show, the answer to that question is a resounding yes. Like anyone who's listening to this show, your answer to that question is always yes, because you're always looking at ways to improve and work on yourself and make yourself better. Otherwise, why would you be listening to a show called Work on Your Game? I mean, that phrase alone is antithetical to anybody who's not serious about getting better and improving on a consistent basis. So you all understand this. You as a listener of this show or a viewer or wherever you're consuming this, you understand this already. So the winning and losing part could be referring to you beating other people in your space, you being the best player on your team or the best team in your league, or you being the highest salesperson in your office or in the region or in the area or whatever. Yes, it can be relative to other people, but it's also relative to you against yourself. So the game is about understanding what is required of you to be successful in your chosen endeavors and doing those things so that you actually can be successful. So the first part of the game is knowing the game that you're in. You've heard me talk about this many times in the past. If you haven't, you're hearing me talk about it now. You will hear me talk about it again in the future. What game are you in? You have to know what game you're in. You got to know what business you are in. Those of you who are entrepreneurs, listen to this. Whether you're side hustle, full-time, whatever, or you're thinking about it, you need to understand what business you're in before you get into business. Because if you get into business thinking you're in one business, but you're actually in another business, your business is going to fail simply because you don't know what you're doing. You're playing the wrong game, and you will lose when you play the wrong game. Why? The game, well, first of all, you got competitors who are playing the game the right way. They're going to chew you up and spit you up. All right, that's what's going to happen. That's what happens when you don't know what business you're in, when you don't know what game you're in. All of us are in a different game. So the game is about knowing what game you're in, understanding the rules and the parameters of that game, and then making your adjustments and showing up prepared to play the game that you're actually in, not the game that you think you're in. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking they're in one game, and then the game chews them up and spits them out, kicks their ass, and they're wondering what the hell the problem was. Well, the problem is you showed up with an inaccurate formula. You didn't know what game you're in. So this is all part of the game, okay? Knowing what game you're in, and then once you understand the game, now what do I have to do to win this game? All right, now that I understand the rules, what I got to do to win? All right, this is all part of the game. All right, we're still on point number one here. And understanding, here's another part of understanding of the game. When you don't do the necessary things to win, or you don't understand what they are, or you violate these rules, you violate the principles of your chosen game, what happens? You know what happens. You lose. This is what happens, folks. This is how it works. So if you want to know if you're playing by the rules or following the principles of any game properly, here's what you got to do. Simple litmus test. Look at your results. Look at the results of your performance in your game, and you will know if you are playing the game at a level that you want to be playing it at, or you need to either step up your performance or step up your understanding. It may be a combination of both. Your results aren't lying to you. So that is what work on your game is about. And Dre Baldwin, I created work on your game. So the point of me creating work on your game is to get that point across to people like you who want to understand. All right. That is number one reason why work on your game exists, what I just explained. Point number two, today's topic once again is why work on your game is here. Why does it exist? Number two, accountability. Accountability. The word accountable is defined as required or expected to justify actions or decisions. Responsible. That's the definition of accountable. Someone once sent me a text and told me that listening to my material had them doing something they had never done before in their lives. You know what that thing was? They said, Dre, listening to your material has me self-evaluating. I had never done that before in my life. And it's a really good point of what this person said. And I'm bringing it up to drive home this accountability part of what work on your game is about. It's about us looking at ourselves in the mirror rather than looking out the window at everybody else and figuring out what we are doing or not doing that is causing our circumstances to be what they are. This is what we all need to be doing. This is what accountability is. Now, accountability can apply in other ways. You can use accountability. You can apply it to other people. If you have kids, for example, you might hold your kids accountable for doing their schoolwork or taking care of the chores or being respectful of adults. Yes, accountability can apply interpersonally between different people. But I'm not talking about that kind of accountability in this context. I'm talking about accountability, you and yourself, you looking in the mirror. Looking at yourself and asking yourself, given my current outcomes, what am I doing or not doing that is leading to this situation? What do I know or not know? Where am I not doing what I need to be doing? Where am I just completely ignorant? And maybe I think I know something, but clearly I don't. Where do I need to make some updates and some changes and some edits? These are questions you should be asking yourself on a regular basis. The more often you ask yourself these questions, the higher the possibility, higher probability that you can get to the outcomes that you want. This is all contingent on, number one, you asking the question. Number two, you demanding that you come up with an answer. And number three, what you do with the answer. Now, those we can't control. You have to actually ask yourself the question. You have to give yourself an honest answer, and then you got to do something with the honest answer. So if I'm, for example, and this is one of the places where the accountability started. Those of you who were following me back in the basketball days, which was from 2005 to 2015, you know this about me. This is one of the things that really started to help build my audience, is when I would explain to players how, as my background as an athlete who only played 1 year of high school basketball, I walked on to play at a Division III college, was the third tier of college sports. Then I had to hustle and market and sell my way to even get a shot to play professional sports. I would always tell the athletes when they would see my background and say, well, Dre, my background is similar to yours. What'd you do in that situation? And I told them something that it went against the grain of what they were expecting, because they would expect me to say something like, well, yeah, the coach was hating on me, my parents weren't helping me, and the other teammates wouldn't pass me the ball, and the world was all against me. I didn't say anything like that. I said the reason I wasn't on the team is I couldn't play. I didn't have game. I was not good. That's the reason why I didn't make the team until I was a senior in high school. And then when I made it, I sat on the bench. Why? Because I wasn't good enough. That's why I was sitting on the bench, because I couldn't play. I got a little bit better, and I could play in college. I got a little bit better, and I could play in the pros. But anywhere where I was not getting the outcomes that I wanted, it was something that I was doing or not doing that caused that situation. It was not the world. It wasn't the coach. It wasn't my parents. It wasn't my teammates. It wasn't some hater. Even though, look, was there things I could say about certain coaches that I had that I felt like they messed up? Yes. Were there things that my parents did or didn't do that I felt like might have gotten my way at some point in some way, shape, or form? Sure. Did I have teammates who I didn't really like playing with? Yes. Were there haters or negative people out there who might have did something or tried to do something that kind of hindered me or got in my way and caused friction? Absolutely. But are any of those the reason why my outcomes were my outcomes? Hell no. My outcomes are my outcomes because of my actions or my inactions. Everything comes back to number one, which is the person in the mirror. This is one of the main principles of what work on your game is about. Is about looking at ourselves in the mirror rather than looking out the window and figuring out what we did or didn't do that caused our circumstances to be what they are. This is about you being brutally honest with yourself. And the more honest you can be with yourself, the better the likelihood that you can achieve the outcomes that you want. Now, again, it doesn't guarantee it, because you're brutally honest with yourself and then you don't do anything with the answer. You don't do anything with what you conclude, then nothing's going to change. But if you are honest with yourself with your conclusions, then you have an opportunity to do something about it. So if I tell myself, all right, I'm not on the basketball team because I'm not that good at basketball, but then I just decide, hey, I'm just not going to be good at basketball. Well, is anything going to change? No, nothing's going to change. Now, if I say I'm not on the team because I'm not good, so what I can do is work on my game and get better, and then I actually do it, now I have an opportunity to do something. Everybody got what I'm saying here? So it's, first of all, asking yourself the question. Second, giving yourself an honest answer or getting an honest answer. If you can't answer the question, go to someone who can answer the question. Get an honest answer. And then the third part is you must act on the answer. All three pieces are required. If you don't act on the answer, then nothing changes. So I can't tell you how many times in a day somebody comes to me and says, Dre, I am deficient. And they don't say it in so many words, but they communicate to me that they are deficient in some area around persistence, consistency, or discipline. Usually these are the top three things I hear people say. I'm just not persistent or consistent or disciplined enough in area X. And every day I hear people say this to me. So I've had, over the years, thousands of people tell me that they're deficient in one of these areas. See, the challenge is not, so the first challenge is you admitting that. Okay, let's just say that that's true. Now, the next thing is, what are you actually going to do to change the situation? What are you going to do to change the situation? And here's the other thing, that many times you may think that you're being brutally honest with yourself when you're actually not because you're trying to deceive yourself. See, when people are not being brutally honest with themselves, not because you're trying to deceive yourself and you're telling yourself a lie on purpose, simply because you don't know what you don't know. So you might think the problem is A, but the problem is actually B. Not because you're trying to lie to yourself and trying to ignore B. It's just that the only thing you know is A, so you're not even aware that B is actually the issue. This is why accountability is not just about you with yourself. It can also be about somebody else giving you the accountability that you need, simply because they can see things that you cannot see. They know things that you don't know. They can understand stuff that you don't understand. They have insight that you simply don't have, because they have an awareness, a level of awareness that you have not yet acquired. Everybody get what I'm saying here? So this is why the consulting and coaching industry exists, because there are people out there who can see stuff that you can't see. This is why every professional athlete, the best performers in the world when it comes to their physical bodies, don't you notice that they all have coaches? Do you think that's a coincidence? Why do the best performers in the world athletically all have coaches? That's how they got there. They became the best because they had coaches all the way up. Now, any of you plays a sport, you notice that there are coaches in middle school, high school, college, and the pros. You know, you don't just get a coach when you become a pro, right? You got a coach all the way through. Every level there are coaches. Every level there are trainers. Why is this? And why is it that professional athletes are all so damn good at what they do? Whereas in other areas of life, think about this. In other areas of life, those of you who are professionals at something other than sports, look around and notice how there are people who have your same level of your same job title. They might be at the same pay grade as you, same job status and position as you. But you ever notice how any of those people are really dog shit terrible at their jobs? They're not even good. They don't even give really a serious effort. And you're looking at, sometimes you look at them and say, how did this mofo get to the same position I'm at? And it kind of annoys you. It kind of makes you frustrated. Any of you notice that? And let me give you one reason why that is. Because in your line of work, it's not set in stone that somebody has a coach all the way through. And that's how the bums can make it all the way through to the level that you're at. They got to where you're at, the same level as you, even though they have none of the, they don't have the same bona fides. They don't have the same qualifications. They're not doing the work at the same level that you're doing it at. And the reason how this can happen, the reason people like them can slip through the cracks in your line of work, but they don't slip through the cracks in the professional sports world, is because in the sports world, we all have coaches. We're all held accountable, guaranteed. You cannot evade accountability in sports. It's impossible. You can evade accountability in office jobs where people work at desks and they're on computers and people wear suits, and it's a much more politicized environments. And those of you who work in those environments, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is one of the reasons why. It's not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons why. If you never thought about it that way, see, that's why I'm here. This is one of the reasons why I exist in the marketplace. I'm giving you a different perspective and insight into why things are how they are. Now, understand that this accountability piece, this is both for when things are going the way that you want them to go and when things are going in the opposite direction. Taking ownership. And ownership comes with responsibility and also comes with power. Everybody wants power. Most important part of accountability is for you to stop letting yourself off the hook for owning your circumstances and outcomes. People who accept accountability own their circumstances and outcomes. Even if you did not completely cause the circumstance, you own it because it's yours, whether you cause it or not. So your parents were broke and you were born in the projects, and now you realize that, okay, it's still your circumstance, even though you didn't cause it. It wasn't your fault, but this is where you're at. And the more ownership you take, the more power you have to do something about the situation. You get it? All right, this is why accountability matters so much. So the more power you have to do, the more power that you have comes with the more ownership that you take, and that gives you the power to do something about the situation. If you don't take ownership, you have no power to do anything about the situation, so you're stuck where you're at. Whether that be perpetuating the circumstances or completely changing the circumstances, whatever you want to do. If you're doing great and you want to keep doing great, take ownership of why you're doing great. Figure out why you're doing great so you can keep doing it. If you're doing terribly and you want to change the situation, take ownership of it so that you can change the situation and start doing better. But if you take no ownership, you don't have power to change the circumstance. You are basically you are subject to whatever the outside world decides to do with you. And you have no power. Moving on to point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is why work on your game exists. Why do we exist in the marketplace? Number 3, we're also giving you our own medicine. And I will say I am giving you my own medicine every time I publish something. I don't tell you anything that I don't tell myself. And I've seen the results of everything that I say to you applied to my own life. Now, sometimes people ask me, Dre, what's something you would tell your younger self? What's something you would say to yourself if you were just starting high school now, or you were just starting college, or you were age X? And usually people fill in the blank with whatever age they are. If somebody's 25, Dre, what would you say to yourself when you were 25? What would you say? Here's the answer to the question. You want to know the answer to that question? Just go back through the archives and listen to every episode in the history of this show, and I will tell you exactly what I would have told myself X number of days, weeks, hours, or years ago. Everything you hear on the show. That's what I would tell my younger self. So my son is old enough to talk, and he says, Daddy, what would you say to your younger self? I say, go tune into go to workonyourgamepodcast.com and listen to every episode that I ever put up. Anything that I'm saying here today, I didn't understand it at this same level 5 years ago, which is why the episodes is coming out today and why it didn't come out 5 years ago. Because I understand it at a level now that I didn't understand 5 years ago. So I wasn't qualified to say it that way 5 years ago. That's why I'm saying it today. Anything I say 5 years from now, the same principle applies. That I didn't understand it as well in 2023 as I will understand it in 2028. That's why I'm recording it in 2028. Because I will revisit topics. Like I'm not done talking about discipline or confidence or mental toughness or business or entrepreneurship. I will talk about those topics again and again and again moving forward as I have new understandings and new ways of thinking about and communicating about those subjects. I'll talk about them from different angles and different ways as my understanding evolves and improves. Everybody get what I'm saying here? Everything I tell you here on this show, I have said it to myself before I said it to you. All right, nothing here on this show is just me telling you something. It's something that I've told myself, and when it makes sense to me, then I make it make sense to you. I don't say it to you till I say it to me first. If it doesn't make sense to me, then I won't say it. That's why I listen back to every episode of the show as if I'm not the one who made it, because I'm reminding myself the same way that I'm teaching and reminding you. And by the way, that we call that repetition, spaced repetition. The more you take in anything, the better the chance that it makes an imprint on your subconscious mind, which is where your actions really stem from. Your actions don't stem from conscious thought. They stem from subconscious thought. And by the way, I just heard somebody say this, that you listen to anything, you hear anything 7 times, it makes an imprint on your subconscious mind. 7 times, not 1 time. So you listen to this show and you like an episode of the show, rewind it and listen to it again. And listen to it 7 times, it will make an imprint on your subconscious mind. But listen to it 1 time is not enough. You will likely forget 99% of what I said about 72 hours from today if you only listen to it once. Science. Point number 4. Today's topic is why work on your game exists in the marketplace. Number 4, I'm the best at this. I'm the best, B-E-S-T, at this. What I mean when I say this means this particular message delivered this particular way cannot be done by anyone else at the level at which I do it. There's nobody else in the world who can do what I do, how I do it at this level. Nobody. That's why I'm doing it. I've appointed myself to do what I do simply because nobody could do it better than I'm doing. And I want you to understand, I'm not saying that as a way to brag or boast. You can take it that way if you wish. But also to tell you, you should adopt this exact same mentality when it comes to what you do. Exact same mentality, exactly how you do it. Because if there are other people in the world who can do exactly what you do, exactly how you do it, and they can do it better than you, then you shouldn't be in the game. What are you in the game for? You're in the way. If there are other people in the world who can do exactly what you do, the same way that you do it, better than you, why are you in the game? You're in the way. You are taking up space, if that's the case. No one in the world could do what you do exactly how you do it. That's why you're there. Otherwise, the marketplace will replace you if you're not the best at doing your thing your way. Now, this does not necessarily mean that you are the smartest or the most accomplished person in the world at your particular thing. It means that your approach and your way of disseminating and delivering that approach is particularly unique and valuable to a certain percentage of the population. Those are your audience, your customers, your clients, is particularly unique and valuable to them. And they want it from you and they don't want it from anybody else. Even though somebody else might have been in the game longer than you, they might have more customers than you, they might have more money than you, they might have more fans than you, they may have more credentials, they may have more degrees than you. That's all right. There are people in the world who want your thing from you, your way. They don't want it from those other people. They want it your way. This is why there's not just one person in every vertical in the world. If that was the case, there'd just be one person in everything, right? The reason why we have multiple people is because not everybody likes the same thing. This is the beauty of the variety of the human species, is that we don't all like the same thing. Everybody get what I'm saying here? This is why we got different. When you go to a restaurant, there's a whole bunch of different things on the menu. Everybody doesn't like the same food. You got Asian restaurants, you got seafood restaurants, you got Italian restaurants, you got American restaurants, and people like different types of food. You got how many different flavors of ketchup? How many different brands of mustard do you have when you go to the grocery store? How many different flavors of Gatorade? People like different things. So your job is not to necessarily be better than person A or person B. It's to be the best version of your thing, and then find the people who like your thing, your way, and serve the hell out of them as best you possibly can. That's what we do here at Work on Your Game. And you should be doing the same thing at your thing. Now you need to figure out what that is so that you can own your space, whatever it happens to be. So for example, you might not be Gordon Ramsay in the kitchen, but there are people who want your cooking more than they want Gordon Ramsay's cooking, even though Gordon Ramsay may be quote unquote better than you on paper. But there are people out there who rather have your meal cooked your way than they want Gordon Ramsay's meal cooked his way. All right? You might not be the best real estate agent in the world, but you have clients who want you to help them find their next home, and they don't want the best real estate agent in the world, whoever that happens to be. Even though you're not number one on the list, they want you because they like their relationship with you and the way that you help them get them what they want. Everybody following what I'm saying here? You might not be the best financial advisor in history on paper, however you would measure that, but there are people out there, these are your clients, who trust you with their money more than they would trust the guy on TV who might have a bigger name than you and a longer client list than you have. So this is what I mean. You do your thing the particular way that you do it, and you doing it that way, it cannot be replicated. If you do not believe that about yourself, you are in the wrong line of work. You should get out of the game. This is what you need to believe about yourself, that your thing cannot be replicated by anyone your way better than you do it. Nobody can do it better than you. And each of us has our particular way of doing our particular thing that separates us from the rest of the marketplace. That's what you need to emphasize. Unless you just happen to be, now if you happen to be number one in the space in some measurable way that you can prove, then I would utilize that too. That's part of your package. That's part of your delivery. If you're not that, then you need to figure out what it is about you and your delivery and your thing that makes people come to you. And those are the things that you need to emphasize. And a simple way you can find this out, by the way, any of you who doesn't know, if you're clueless about this, talk to the people who are in your world and ask them. Say, hey, I'm not the only person in this world of doing X. What is it about my thing that you like the most? And they will answer. And if you ask enough of them, you'll start noticing some common answers, some commonalities. And those are the things that you should emphasize, because that's the thing that makes the people who like you. And guess what? That will also help you do. Find other people who think the same way that they do, and they will also like you. So there, I just gave you this whole episode, I gave you a business lesson. You should be using this stuff in your business and in your life on a consistent basis. So with all that said, let's recap today's class, which is why Work on Your Game is here, why we exist. This is about establishing why Work on Your Game is in the marketplace, my personal reason for being in the marketplace, what we're bringing to the table every single time you get a new message from Dre Baldwin or whoever is going to be captaining Work on Your Game 1,000 years into the future. Hopefully we still exist then. Hopefully humanity still exists then. Point number one, the game. Life and every aspect of life is a game, and games have winners and losers. Just because you won yesterday or lost yesterday does not mean you get the same outcome today. And this does not necessarily mean you against other humans, even though it could. It means you against the idealized version of yourself. And point number two, accountability. This means required or expected to justify actions or decisions, also responsible. Somebody told me that listening to my material had them self-evaluating for the first time in their lives. And that's what accountability is about. It's about holding yourself to account for things that you are doing and for your particular circumstance. Even if you did not cause the circumstance, you taking ownership of it, because the more ownership you take, the more power you have. Number three, I'm giving you my own medicine. I don't tell you anything here on the show that I don't tell myself. So anybody ever ask me, Dre, what's something you would tell your younger self? The answer is everything I've ever said on the show. Everything I say here on this show, I'm talking to myself just as well as I'm talking to you. I don't say it to you until I've said it to myself first. If it doesn't make sense to me, then I do not try to make it make sense to you. And number four, I'm the best at this. And when I say the best, that means this particular thing that I'm doing, the particular way that I do it, nobody can do this better than me. And that's why I'm in the marketplace. You need to believe, accept and believe the exact same thing about yourself and your stuff and what you do. If you do not, you are in the way. You might as well get the hell out of the game, because why are you here? All right, if you're not the best at what you do your way, why are you here? Again, you don't have to be number one on somebody's list or by anybody else's made up process of what makes somebody the best. You need to be the best based on what you do and how you do it. And that is why people come to you in the first place. This is why you can look around and you notice that You go walk around a bunch of restaurants in a busy town, you notice that there's people in every restaurant. There's no one restaurant that everybody wants to get to and everybody just ignores all the others. There's no one podcast that everybody listens to. There's no one YouTube channel. There's no one drink that everybody drinks. There's no one city that everybody lives in. There's no one car that everybody drives. People want different things. This is the beauty of humanity. You need to find the people who want your thing your way, but the only way they can identify that is if you get clear on what it is and put it out there and stand on it and believe it in such a way that they see they can believe in it, and then you'll know where your niche is and the space that you can carve out in the marketplace. We call that your blue ocean within the red ocean. All that said, text me and let me know the best insight you got from today's class. My number is 305-384-6894 and workonyourgameuniversity.com. That is the place where you can learn how to implement everything that I've talked about here today, not only for yourself personally and in your personal life, but also in business and in your business life, especially those of you who are building brands, those of you who are building entities. You want to stand out in the marketplace and trying to figure out how do you do it. I just laid out for you how we do it. I can lay out and help you do the exact same thing for yourself. Do you think so? Do you believe that? You believe I can? I just told you that I can. I just showed you that I can. With all that said, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. All right, and get on the call with us. No obligation, no charge. Get on the call and let's see where you're at, where you want to go, how we can help you. We'll tell you what it looks like, how it will work. Work on your game. Dre, all